Okay.
Good morning, happy Thursday, and welcome to Morning in the Mountains special edition with a visit with Santa and Mrs. Claus. Well, we left the studio and we're actually out in a very special place, and we're going to take you for a little tour and introduce you to it. We are at the Fort Loudon Historic State Park. And what you need to know about this is if you go south from Cades Cove down the 411 and you take it past Townsend and then
Townsend and then into
Maryville and
Maryville.
then into Venor, you are going to find the Fort Loudon Historic State Park. And this is a fascinating place, and the history goes all the way back to the early 1700s. In fact, they were talking about building a fort back in 1708 because they wanted to increase their relations with the Cherokee Indians. Well, it took them a little while, but in the 1750s, they built this fort, and it still stands here today. Now, it's a recreation, but it's in the exact detail of the fort from the 1750s and 60s. And we're going to take you inside and take you for a little walk. So let's go for a walk.
I'm going to scan this a little bit just to kind of give you an idea that it is the fort. And yes, this was built during 1756 and 1757. So, all right, now here we go.
Now let Mrs. Claus take care. Be careful of your footing, dear.
Now, again, we will
Yeah,
show you things in detail, but I want to just scan a little bit
it's
again.
amazing. Look at all the detail that is here, and we'll explain the different houses and such. But this fort was basically built to work with the Indians. Now, unfortunately, when the Indian Wars came about, this became more of a military fort and was built to protect the settlers and the people that were here. So, which didn't turn out all that well, but if you go to the Wikipedia page, you will find just pages and pages of information about this fort. But there's nothing better than coming out here and exploring it on your own. And the wonderful thing is, as you can see, it's a little after 9 o'clock, and there's nobody here. I mean, talk about a great place to go during the COVID pandemic. You can walk around. The kids can run around. They can visit things. They can walk along the fence lines and see where the cannons were placed and see where the protections were set up. And we're going to take you to the museum after this and show you a little bit more about some of the day-to-day life here. But for right now, let's just take a walk and take a look at the beautiful fort that's here. Now, I believe to my left here, are you paying attention to me?
Yes.
Okay, is the storage um, house where they kept all their food stores and stocks. As you can see, it's made up more of stone, so it would stay cooler and protect the stores better. So, and then there's a couple cannon placements up there. And again, the kids can go up and take a look and you know, play in the areas and see what they could see from there. This park is beautiful. It is completely surrounded by the Little Tennessee River. So it's got water on all sides. This is basically a peninsula that they built the fort upon to help protect it and also to make it easier to get stores in and out of here through the waterways. Oh. It's a little hilly, but it's not bad. It's easily walkable. If I can walk it, anybody can walk it.
Santa,
Yes.
since we're kind of close to this, do you want to see that building first?
Actually, I thought we'd start with the barracks.
Oh, okay.
These are all the barracks where they house the soldiers and the residents here. And we, you can walk into a lot of these buildings and they still have the types of furniture and furnishings for each house. I'm not going to go in there right now.
You want me to go ahead and film
Oh,
in
if
there?
you want to go ahead and take a look.
Okay, let's, there's several that are open.
All of them.
Well,
except that one.
okay, so now you see, it's kind of like bunk beds, which is what they used to have because you needed to utilize the space. So you've got a set of bunk beds here, and then in the middle is their fireplace, which was the only thing that they had to keep them warm. And on the other side, more bunk beds. And then in the middle, they had a table of sorts where they could sit and maybe play cards, talk to each other, and eat. And so that's, and they have a couple of little windows which they could of course close and barricade when the need arose. So we'll get out of here and okay.
And each barracks kind of resembles the next one. So basically you've got an entire row of housing with the same kind of, again, the bunk beds, the fireplace, the social table where they took their meals or played cards, as Mrs. Claus said, or did other things. So, but there's a whole row of these things, and actually they had more than this initially, but they've taken a lot of this out so to give you room to roam. So some of the more interesting buildings are down over there, and we'll take a walk over that way. Now, actually, right next to me over here was the main gate, and they basically came in off the waterway there and came through the main gate, and that's how they got into the fort. So it's, as you can see the water very close by there. So they were able to bring all their supplies without getting too far into the grounds. So okay, this is kind of their storage house. And again, just to show you how, there's little spider webs there. But this is where they kept the various barrels and teas. The British had to have their teas, So, Mrs. Claus, if you want to take a look in there.
Now this is just a dirt floor, which is I'm sure what they had. And there you see some boxes of things they have: brown sugar, candles, tea, as Santa said, cheese, tobacco, because they used to smoke back then. And then kegs, which may have held different things. This says beef on the top. It's a little, maybe if I get in there, maybe you can see that. Beef, where they used to salt the beef and eat it, because they didn't have any way to keep things fresh. So everything had to be salted. Here's coffee, bacon, soap, Madeira, which is a wine, more tobacco, and then they've got mustard, black pepper, and whiskey for the officers. And there's
And if you happen to look upstairs, they also, that's where they kept a lot of their clothing, their blankets, some other stores. Probably they did keep things like bacon and cheese up there, although probably more like textiles up there to keep it away from the heat and the cold. So, and lots of barrel storage. So,
which of course,
lots of salt beef. Boy,
yeah,
I'll tell
which
you,
of course they needed, because they had quite a crew to fill.
yeah,
to
they had a
feed.
full garrison down here, so which is a lot of soldiers in one area. So,
See, I got you kind of in the shade there. I'm
There.
going to come back out.
Okay. Let's take a walk over here to
Okay.
the blacksmith shop.
All righty.
Again, there was their well where they drew fresh water. And here's the blacksmith shop. As you can see, they had the central fireplace where they kept everything going so they could keep the metal hot and heated. And this is where they made everything from bullets to sharpening swords to shoeing their horses. So,
Now they don't let you come in here, so I'm just going to kind of scan this around. Hopefully you can see it pretty well. And you know, one of the things I wanted to point out too, and I don't know if you can see it very well. We'll try and get a better close-up. But the walls of the fort are, of course, all wood spikes, but they actually slant outwards so that it was that much harder to try and climb up.
actually, if you take a look back towards the main gate, you can see how they're slanted.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that kind of shows everything kind of faced out
Right.
to keep the hostiles at bay.
Yeah, it was harder to get through into the
Now this is
Fort.
another barracks, but it also has the officers' quarters.
Oh,
So
okay.
not a whole lot of different from the enlisted men, but this was where the officers were able to stay. As you can see, there's not a lot of bunk beds.
No, they had their own bed.
They had their own
So,
bed.
So this is where they had some shelving. They could put their belongings on. And then actually we'll walk this direction. And this has a couple of more beds and some tables. And of course at the end is another fireplace for them.
So this is where the officers and the sub-officers stayed. So they had their own kind of almost private quarters, if you will. So
Okay.
and then My guess is this is like a fire pit where they made a lot of their food, you know, where they roasted their beef or roasted pigs that were here, and other types of food, or did baking. That, so this was always kept hot and always working. And then if you look around, there's some more barracks up there, which we won't get into right now, but again, and here, if you will, turn around. There's some more visitors, if you can even see them.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is a great place for social distancing and keeping your distance from other people, which is why we're not wearing masks.
Now, also, let me get a picture of the front of this little fireplace.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like a hive oven, and I think that's exactly what Santa's talking about. So I believe that they did use this to cook the meals, because again, remember, they're cooking for quite a number of people, so they needed to have something bigger to use, an oven to make bread, to cook the meat, and probably they did some roasting of that as well. Now, another little scan here, and here's coming back up to Santa.
Now, it's interesting. This gate has a little guardhouse to it, just on the outside. So apparently this was the security point that they came in.
Oh, uh-huh. Now let me see if I can back up a little bit and scan this. And that's right, they probably obviously had a guard on duty.
And this shows that, you know, once you left this gate, you were basically 450 miles away from Charleston through rugged trails. And that's where they used like pack horses and pack mules, that kind of thing, to get to the other forts.
Boy,
30 days to journey by
Boy.
foot.
Pretty amazing.
And again,
Pretty amazing.
Looking out this way, you could see they had, you know, they would have some agriculture out here. They would have like berry bushes, and they would grow corn and that kind of thing for, you know, to help supplement their food supply. And of course they had the little, you know, protection areas around the fort. They had a great many more of these around, scattered around, to kind of, you know, subdue attackers as they were charging, especially to the corners and the sides that weren't as well protected.
I'm going to get a little closer on there and show the points, because this is exactly what he's talking about, of the breastworks, of making sure that if people were running towards you, these are actually pretty sharp points. And so you'd want to think twice before you came into the fort. And
Look
here,
at that beautiful scenery there.
yeah, they did have a pretty view. And I bet they did a lot of fishing to supplement their meals.
Oh, I'm sure of it, yeah.
And then here's the
speaking of
back
fishing,
view.
You know, at this particular park, you can even go fishing here. They have fishing docks. We may get a chance to show you that. Otherwise, we'll catch that another time. But they have fishing docks. They have picnic areas. They have public restrooms. They have all the amenities that you would be looking for if you wanted to bring a picnic and have it here. They even have grills that you can, you know, heat up for like hot dogs or hamburgers. And the best thing about this entire fort and this state park, it's free. It's free to anybody who wants to come and visit. They do it. It's only fair. They've got an awful lot of stuff, as you're about to see. Museum that's full of information, and you can buy postcards, you can get different things. In fact, why don't we take a walk and head towards that direction?
And the other thing is, since we're talking about that, is the hours are 8 to sunset for the park itself,
Right.
and then 8 to 4:30 for the visiting center.
Right.
So they actually open up pretty early, which is nice for you to
Yeah,
plan your
I'm
visit.
calling it a museum because there's so much stuff in there,
Well,
but it's actually a visiting center.
It is.
But it's just, well, you're going to see it's tremendous. They got a whole bunch of stuff in there. So let's take a little walk down the trail, shall we?
I think
You
maybe
think we're
as
better off going this way or around the front?
no, I think up we can go up, and then
Okay.
the one thing I'd like to do is go in that corner to show where the it's easy to get to,
Oh, okay.
and to show where the soldiers would stand to defend the fort.
Okay. I'll follow you.
In between time, we're just going to take it a little easy. This is a little hilly here.
Yeah, if you have a walking stick, this is a good place to use it.
This fort actually was built just around the time of the French and Indian War. To kind of give you a time frame of this, this is pre-revolutionary.
Yeah, this was roughly 20 years before the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
So I'm headed kind of into that corner, and I see they have stairs. So and they have some mock-up cannons up here that they use to protect the fort. This fort actually had a short life, believe it or not. It was finished in 1857 and or 1757. Boy, I'm getting my centuries mixed up. Okay, so this has a corner. We'll see if I can get up here. Okay, so here's one of the cannons. So in these little holes, this is where they would put the cannons to fire. And then again, over here. And if I turn in this direction, you can see they had a good view from inside the fort. They had another area here where the soldiers could stand with rifles to help defend the fort. And as you can see, some of the wood's cut a little lower so you could put out your rifle and defend the fort.
You see the view up there?
Yeah,
Show everybody the view from this place.
yeah, this is just spectacular. It's so, so pretty up here.
Okay, come on now. Let's head back down to the museum, or visiting center as they call it.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
I'm going down the stairs, so if you see me kind of going, looking at the grass, that's why. Okay. Now, make my way over to Santa again.
Now, let's be quiet for just a minute. I want my viewers to hear just how silent this whole area is. So, as they say on Sunday morning, take a moment, enjoy the view, and listen to the quiet. So, go ahead and pan over that way. If it wasn't for the crunching of the stones, you would hear nothing. So, again, if you're looking for a little peace and quiet or a great place for a picnic, this is a little over an hour from Cades Cove, just going down south, and it's mostly 4-lane highway, so it's a breeze to get here, and it won't take you much time at all. So, and you see some pretty areas along the way down too, I might add. So, like going through Townsend. So let's head over to the visiting center. And here, I'll trade you for a few minutes. Go ahead, Mrs. Claus, you can walk forward. There she is! And again, covered on all sides by water, so it's absolutely beautiful. And it doesn't matter what the vista is from here, it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, one thing you may not be able to see, I'm trying to, but there's actually a British flag up there to designate whose fort it was. So, and as you can see, this is a well-paved path that goes straight to the visiting center, and most of the paths along here are paved, although there's some wonderful trails along here as well. So, if you're looking for doing a little hiking, there's some nice trails along here. There's some beautiful places to drop a line and see what you can catch out of the area. And there's a lot of history from this area. One of the things that we're going to come up on, we tried to take a picture of this, but it's a little far away, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it from here, but after the fort fell, and about 50 years later, they had to build what they call the Tellico Blockhouse. And right across the river there is another historical monument called the Tellico Blockhouse, which was built in 1794. So about 40 years, 50 years after the fall of the fort, they built a blockhouse to help protect, again, the settlers and also their supplies for the military.
Actually, the Cherokees.
And actually, yeah, that's where they were trying to work, you know, after doing several skirmishes between the Indians and the militia units, they worked with the Cherokee to establish peaceful relations with the young federal government at the time. So, so this was kind of like a, if you will, an early United Nations for the Indians and the English and the new country of the United States. So, boy, I can even see some fish jumping over there. Hey, where's my line?
Well, and this might be just a good opportunity, Santa, to mention the fact that in 1860, the fort did fall. the relations with the Cherokee Indians.
Get over in the sun there where we can see you
Oh.
talking. There you go. There, perfect.
The relation with the Cherokee Indians fell, and they actually started to side with the French, because remember, this is the French and Indian War. And so they laid siege. The Cherokees laid siege to this in 1860. And in, I believe it was August of 1860, the fort, the English said, oh, we can't last any longer. And so they picked up, they packed up, and they abandoned the fort. And that was the last time that the English flag flew over this fort, was in 1860. So, okay,
Let's move on down the road. And again, if you like forests, if you like mountains, and by the way, speaking of mountains, we still are in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains. So all of this area is still part of what's considered the Smoky Mountain area. So it's just a little further south, as I mentioned, and is kind of off on its own little beaten path down here. But there's a lot of wonderful things, and in fact, just about, what, a half mile up the road?
yes.
About a half mile up the road is the Sequoia Museum, after the great chief Sequoia, who brought writing to the Cherokees. And they have a whole museum, and in fact, we're planning on doing a video visit of that down the road. So, and when I say down the road, I mean down a different day. But look at the beautiful forest and the beautiful river. It's absolutely gorgeous, and boy, I'll tell you what, if you think this is pretty now, boy, wait till you see it in fall. It really gets gorgeous. Now, maybe you can see it, I could see it, but maybe you can see it in the camera. There's a building right ahead of us, and that is the visiting center. You all right there, Mrs. C? I mentioned the trails, and here's one of them right here that goes down, and as you can see, it keeps, you know, goes right through down to the river, where again, there's a dock down there where you can go fishing, or you can continue walking into the forest. Look at some other areas. And as Mrs. Claus makes her way to the visiting center, I'll show you this trail on this side that actually goes down and around in front of the fort. So you can see the front of the fort from the water side if you care. And I see some more visitors heading our way. But as you can see, there's almost nobody on this trail at all, which gives you plenty of room to social distance and plenty of things to go visit as you do it.
Good morning, kids.
Morning, folks.
You gonna go see the fort today? Oh, we just came from there.
Probably better to get an early start.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's
so
gonna
much fun.
it's gonna be warm today, but boy, there's lots for you to see and to do up there. They even have cannons for you.
Yeah.
But do me a favor, all right? Don't shoot us with them. Okay?
You'll be long gone by then.
Oh, okay, good. Have fun.
Same to you.
Let's see. Can we get in from this side?
You know, I'm not sure. That's why I'm trying to get a little closer to see if
Okay. Yeah, I think you can.
I think so.
And the sign on the door says picnic shelter restrooms are open. So again, they have public restrooms. They do recycling here. As you can see, there's glass, plastic, and aluminum. And in we enter. Okay. And here's where we just were. As you can see, they've got a little diorama of the fort here. So you can kind of take a look if you don't feel like making it down the way. But again, here's tools and different items that they used at the fort that they'd found, including pottery and pipes, buttons, cups, pitchers, and a bowl. Okay, Mrs. Claus is going to do the tour for you.
Now, okay, well, here is a replica of a real cannon. The ones that they had out at the fort were, or I'm not sorry, this is not a replica, this is a real cannon.
That is a real cannon.
The ones in the fort were replicas. And look.
Let's talk about big guns.
Yeah.
Now this is just half of this gun. This is called the wall gun for obvious reasons. They stuck it in a wall because it had to be supported. And this is how they shot long distances. And I'll come right around here. Oh, and they didn't put it on the other side. But basically, back here is all the different armaments that they had during the fort. Okay.
Yeah, they even had a grenade, cartridge pouches, the King's pattern long land service muskets. So these are the muskets that the British had. And probably they had something similar to that during the Revolutionary War.
Now, as you can see, this goes on. We won't continue on because our time is basically used up here, but we wanted to give you a quick overview of the visitor center itself and show you there. You could spend easily another hour or more here in this area. They have some of the uniforms and costumes and armaments that they wore. Even some of the beads and jewelry that were worn with the Indians, or I should say the Native Americans. I call them Indians, but that's what they call them. So we now call them Native Americans. Even their dogs had uniforms. So.
And this is another diorama, a little bit larger, of the fort.
Let me
right here.
Come around. There you go. Gives you another view of the fort and how it's laid out. So, again, if you don't feel like taking long walks, like we just did. So, but again, this is about a little over an hour south of Cades Cove and about, roughly about an hour from Townsend, actually, is a better way to put it. So it's definitely worth the trip down, and you should put this on your list of places to visit. And again, bring a picnic lunch. I mean, my gosh, they got all the facilities here. They have picnic tables. They have all types of amenities, including public restrooms, as I showed you. So take a ride to the Fort Loudon Historic State Park. I guarantee you, you'll be fascinated and you won't regret coming. So, okay. So, all right, and I would say that pretty much wraps it up for us and for Mountain Fun Life this morning. And we'll see you guys back on Tuesday, and we're going to have a very special guest on Tuesday, and that would be, let's see if I can, trying to switch this and it's not.
There
it
we
is.
go.
There we go. Okay, so we'll have a great weekend. Stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Thanks for joining us.